Welcome, dear viewer, and thank you for joining us today. Whether you're a lover of history, the paranormal, or just a good old-fashioned ghost story, you're in the right place. In the heart of Salem, Massachusetts, where legends linger like shadows in the mist, there stands a forgotten antiques shop. Nestled between the ruins of yesterday, it hides a secret far older than its crumbling walls. A mirror, carved in pine and iron, said to have once belonged to a judge of the infamous witch trials, and whispered to carry a curse born from the screams of the condemned. This is the story of Emma Dalton, and the mirror that watched her, waited for her, and never let go. Make sure your reflection is alone, and whatever you do, don't turn away. In a small antiques shop nestled between a faded laundromat and an abandoned bakery in Salem, Massachusetts, a dusty mirror leaned against a cracked brick wall. Its frame was intricately carved with symbols that resembled runes, ivy, and flames. Most customers passed it by without a second glance. But when Emma Dalton stepped inside that rainy October afternoon, she stopped dead in front of it. The shopkeeper, a pale man with thinning hair, appeared beside her as if from nowhere. "Salem pine and iron, made in the late 1600s, he said, his voice low. Came from the estate of a judge who presided over the witch trials. Legend says it once hung in his private chambers." Emma, a doctoral student in colonial history, felt a chill crawl up her arms. Fascinated by the occult legacy of Salem, she felt drawn to it. Within an hour, she'd bought it and arranged for delivery to her rented apartment near Essex Street. That night, the mirror arrived. She hung it in her living room, opposite the fireplace. As she stepped back to admire it, the flames flickered strangely in its reflection. Odd, she thought. When she turned to look at the real fire, nothing had changed. Days passed. At first, the mirror was merely strange reflections appeared slightly off, a little delayed. Then she started seeing flickers of movement that weren't in the room. One night, while grading papers, she looked up and saw a shadow standing behind her in the reflection. She whipped around. Nothing. She began to dream of fire and screaming. Her nights became restless, filled with whispering voices and ghostly chants. One night she dreamed she was being dragged through the streets of 17th century Salem, torches surrounding her, townsfolk screaming, "Witch!" Convinced the mirror was more than a relic, Emma began researching its history. The estate it came from had once belonged to Judge Jebediah Harlan, notorious for condemning 19 accused witches to hang. Local lore claimed he had used the mirror for interrogations, watching his victims' reactions as he accused them. One tale said that the last woman he sentenced cursed him, declaring that he would be watched from beyond until justice was served. That's when Emma saw it. Not a shadow, not a flicker, a face. It was there in the glass pale, gaunt, eyes black and hollow. It didn't mimic her. It didn't blink when she did. It just stared. And it smiled. Emma screamed and knocked over a lamp. When the light returned, the mirror showed only her wide, terrified eyes. From that moment, her world twisted. Lights flickered. Books flew from shelves. The mirror began showing her terrifying images, her apartment in flames, her own reflection hanging from a tree. Worst of all, she began to see herself committing acts she never remembered. Smashing a neighbor's window, screaming obscenities in the street, writing symbols on the walls in what looked like blood. One night, her friend Dana came over, concerned. Emma tried to explain. Dana looked into the mirror and gasped. "Emma, what's that behind you?" But Emma saw nothing. Dana refused to return. Desperate, Emma contacted a local historian who had written about cursed objects. Dr. Alan Richter agreed to meet. When he saw the mirror, his face drained of color. This was mentioned in the Harlan letters. They believed it was a scrying tool, one that eventually turned on its owner. Judge Harlan was found dead in front of it, eyes burned out. "How do I stop it?" Emma asked. He paused. "You don't. The curse can't be lifted, but it can be transferred." She stared at him, horrified. You mean I have to give it to someone else? Someone who accepts it willingly? Yes. Emma refused. She locked the mirror in her closet. That night, she heard scratching from inside the door. Whispers seeped through the wood. By dawn, the mirror had returned to the wall, hanging exactly as before. Then came the final vision. She awoke at 3 a.m., drawn to the glass. In it, she saw not her apartment, but a noose, swinging. Her reflection turned to face her. You're not done yet, it whispered. In a daze, she wrote a listing online. Antique Salem mirror, rare 17th century relic. Beautiful and mysterious, must see in person. A collector responded within hours. They met in a public cafe. He was thrilled. He'd been looking for genuine witch trial-era artifacts. Emma handed it over. She never saw him again. But 2 weeks later, she read in the local paper. Collector found dead in Salem hotel room. Eyes severely burned. Authorities baffled. Emma now keeps only one mirror in her home. Small, round, no reflections behind her. Just enough to check her eyes, to make sure they're still hers. And so the mirror waits somewhere, watching, whispering, reflecting not who you are, but what might come for you next. If you felt a chill during this story, if a shadow moved where none should be, perhaps something ancient is closer than you think. Thank you for joining us on this dark journey into the haunted heart of Salem. If you enjoyed this tale, please like, subscribe, and share it with fellow seekers of the strange and supernatural. And remember, not every antique is just wood and glass. Some hold memories, others hold grudges. Until next time, keep your lights on, your mirrors covered, and your real eyes open.